gorgeous out. Let's pop some ducks.
This is the Upduck Podcast, a blend of upland and waterfowl hunting. Tune in as your hosts, Tyler Beaton, Jeff Ludicky, Matt Jeske, chat about training dogs and share their bird hunting stories, tactics, and strategies.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Upduck Podcast. No Matt today. It is just me, Tyler, and we're going to have a down and dirty episode. We're going to get right to it because we are talking about the new waterfowl hunting framework for the years 2026 through 2030. And what better person to discuss that framework than the game bird ecologist from the Wisconsin DNR. He's been a guest on the show before. Taylor Finger is his name. Taylor, welcome back to the Upduck Podcast.
Awesome. Glad to be here.
Yeah, appreciate you jumping back on. As we were discussing before we hit record, appreciate your flexibility as I have moved this around a little bit due to life circumstances. Anyway, the framework was published here recently, right? And that is a 5-year framework. Okay. And correct me, right? We used to do it as a 3-year framework in Wisconsin, correct?
The last time it was a 3-year, but prior to that, we did it every single year. It was an annual process of which we went through this. And just some background on it. The reason why we started looking to set it for multiple years is we did an analysis. And so we've had a 60-day season since 1997. And we looked at how frequently our regulations changed on an annual basis and found that since 1997, over 90% of the regs didn't change from year to year. And so what we found was we were going to the same exact meetings in the same exact locations and talking to the same exact people with the same exact arguments and coming out the same exact way every single time. And so was it a good use of, our time and resources? And so we said, hey, let's set the season, see if we can trial it for 3 years, see if folks like that. And then we already do 5 years for our zones and splits. The feds have a 5-year time process. So we said, hey, if we could line it up with when we set our zones and then do our season structure at the same exact time, that would be awesome. And yeah, it's worked out really well. The public has really supported it, and our partners are definitely in favor of it.
That's great. And so with this framework, right, what goes into this framework? You collect surveys, right? You go to in-person meetings, right? If you hunt in the state of Wisconsin, right, if you're a resident, I have the opportunity to voice my opinion. I could fill out a survey. I can go to an in-person, right? Talk about my concerns, what I'd like to see. And then you take all that back and take that into account. Correct?
Yeah, we use several different sources input to help inform this process. And so every couple of years we do a scientifically designed social science survey, of which we send out 3,000 surveys to randomly selected hunters from across the state. And that kind of gives us what the average hunter would like in terms of a season framework. And then when we directly ask people to give us phone calls, fill out the online input tool, or we hold, 4 public hearings where people can attend. Those tend to be the avid people, the ones that are going to take extra time out of their day to come and help provide that input. So we then match that up with what the average folks do and try to come out with a framework that, meets the most amount of people's desires. And I mean, Wisconsin's unique. Not every state asks hunters what they want for season framework. Some just go ahead and do it. And so for us, when we get 2,000 to 3,000 comments to give us feedback, that's a lot of feedback when it boils down to people specifically reaching out and giving us that input.
Did you receive more survey responses this time around than you had 3 years ago?
Yeah, we put additional extra effort into making sure that we had a longer comment period, tried to have more meetings, spent more time with our partners to have them do surveys as well, just because, again, if you're setting the season for 5 years, it's different than every single year. And so we want to make sure that we had something that people would generally be happy with.
Okay. Perfect. And that makes sense. So, all right, that's the whole process. That's what went into it, right? This is now published. It's available on Wisconsin DNR's website to go read. But right, as a duck hunter, right, in this, what should I expect? Like, what's changed from last year to this fall from a framework standpoint?
Yeah, fortunately, the majority of things really ended up not having a lot of change. As we said, 90% of the frameworks don't change from year to year, but we did make changes to primarily for hunters the Canada goose season on the Mississippi River. The last 3 years, we had opened it up on September 16th, which is the same date as the North and the South. So we had a consistent statewide goose opener. But prior to that, the Mississippi River had always opened up with their duck season. So they'd open up 2 weeks later because they didn't want hunters out on the river shooting before the duck season and scaring birds away. And so we trialed it for 3 years, and the river hunters came back and said, hey, we want to go back to opening it up with the duck season. And so, yeah, we made that change. The only other significant change that we did, because this is a 5-year process, is we made changes to a 30 and our 45-day season frameworks, because again, hypothetically, if the feds populations were to decline, or the amount of water on the landscape in the Canadian prairies changed and we had to go to a 30-day season in our 5-year time framework, we would really want to know what would hunters hypothetically like. And so again, we asked hunters, said, hey, we haven't had a 30-day season in 30 years, but if we had to, what would be a framework that you in the North Zone would like, or you in the South Zone would like? And so we made changes to those as well. But everything else is essentially what we've been experiencing for the last, the South Zone, starting on that Saturday nearest October 1st with a 5-day split. We've had that same exact framework since 1997. And then, the North opens up a week earlier and runs a straight 60-day season. And then that open water zone opens up that 2 weeks after the South, and then continues for a straight 60-day season into the middle of December. So again, the grand scheme of things, we're sitting at what we've kind of experienced for quite a while now with all 3 zones. But again, we as we have structured this 5-year process, it also allows us the flexibility for if things change at the federal end. So for example, if, say the SCOP bag limit were to go back up to 3, we would be allowed to, within that 5-year framework, bump up our Scott bag limit to go with what the maximum the feds want. Or say the pintail bag limit, which is 3, if that were to drop back down to 2 or 1, we would have to adjust that bag limit back down to what the federal bag limits are. So we do have some flexibility as well.
And you literally answered my next question, which was going to be, hey, right, are there adjustments to bag limits that can take place within this 5-year time frame? And the answer is 100% yes.
Yeah, yep. The way we wrote the rule, we essentially said we want to take what the maximum bag limit allotment is allowed by the Fish and Wildlife Service. And so again, we'll adjust things as we get information from the Fish and Wildlife Service.
Sure. And in 5 years, right, a lot can change in 5 years, right? And all I keep reading about or hearing about is the lack of ducks, right? The lack of ducks, right? And we'll see what the surveys look like later this year for nesting and such. And right, up in Canada, right, in the Dakotas. If based on the way things are trending, if you had to guess, if you had to put your money like on a specific bag limit changing in the next 5 years, is there one you'd put it on?
Right now, the only one that I would potentially, again, I think your canvasbacks are going to stay the same. I think SCOP have to jump up quite a bit to get us back up to 3. So I would be surprised if we got to that point. Pintail, I think we're going to be with 3 until we get that experiment done to see how adjusting the pintail bag limit. The only one that I could see potentially changing is right now, the teal season. The maximum teal season is a 16-day teal season. We are in a 9-day teal season because the teal population fell below a certain threshold. So across the flyway, we're now stuck with a 9-day teal season. I could see the teal numbers bumping back up as soon as water starts getting back on there. And so there could be a maximum of a 16-day teal season. But that's realistically, again, based on the preliminary, the notes from the Fish and Wildlife Service. It looks like things were wetter this year on the U.S. and Canadian prairies. So again, that's relatively good news. Boreal Canada was really good in terms of water, and here in Wisconsin, we got our results. You can find that on the DNR surveys page. We were pretty good. We were, total ducks we were up 1%, but mallards were up, wood ducks were up, teal were up. And so, yeah, all in all, it was a good year in terms of water and birds.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's I didn't realize that the survey results were posted on Wisconsin
Yep.
or
Yep.
for Wisconsin yet. So I had missed that. I had read, right, there was more water this year, right, up in Canada, which is a good thing. I I personally, right, it felt like there were more wood ducks last year than there had been the prior year and the year before that too. It felt like the wood ducks really had a good year last year. I'll be curious if that trend continues this year. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, based on our banding information, we can look at, how many juveniles per adults that we have. And last year it was a good production year.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So fingers and toes crossed. Hopefully from a teal season standpoint, this is me speaking selfishly. Hopefully we don't have like highs in the 60s at the end of August for the teal season opener, and probably push out a whole bunch of those birds.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, again, we had a frost, I think, during that first
Yeah.
week of the teal season, and we were talking to some of the biologists down in Texas, and they said that they had more teal on the Texas Gulf Coast in the second and third week of September than they've ever seen. And so definitely that cold snap pushed birds right on through.
Yes. Yes, 100%. Yeah, and that like affected then like the beginning of the regular duck season then too, with birds and what we were seeing up here. So good stuff. Taylor, anything we missed? Any relevant points that we didn't touch on?
No, again, just I want to highlight that, that we do collect public input on this. And just because we're setting the seasons for, 5-year stretches doesn't mean that you can't take the opportunity to let me know if there were something that you'd like to see after a year and you're like, hey, this is we need a split in the north. That's one that we continue to hear. We need a holiday hunt for goose in the north, or those types of things.
Yeah.
Make sure that you get that information in front of me, because all of that information will be compiled and used the next time we make those changes. And so you don't have to sit and wait and say, well, I'm not going to say anything till 2030 but make sure that you reach out and have those discussions, because I can provide some information, and then I can start setting the table. If there is a change that needs to be, it doesn't have to be right at the last second. It can be years in the making. And so make sure that we get that feedback from you.
That's perfect. I will the show notes, I'll try to link your contact info, or link your email, right? That's probably the easiest way
Perfect.
folks can reach out to you. So they can give that feedback. I am guessing that the North having a split is probably the largest piece of feedback that you get that's probably not implemented.
Yeah, it's one of those ones. It's it all depends on how the fall ends. And so like last year we had a normal fall kind of towards the end, and so there was probably a week of lost hunting in the north because most of the small bodies of water froze up, and so it wasn't quite as loud. But the 3 years before that, when we didn't see snow until the middle of December, they're like, well, why aren't we doing that? So it really does kind of see what on an annual basis how things shake out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's got to be the one. I know a few folks who live in the North Zone and have made that mention that to me, that I really need a split of the North. So I hold no opinion. I'm just gonna toe the line here and just not give an opinion on it.
That's wise. That's very wise.
And then I guarantee I'll get a few text messages after this podcast.
Yeah, you had the opportunity. You should have said something. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'll go back. I will link, going back to that. I'll give your email in the show notes here so folks can reach out to you. I think that's valuable. And I think to your point, right, if this really needs to happen, right, if we just generally start to have more mild winters, or winters that start later, and we turn, like, let's get 5 years worth of feedback built up.
Yep.
And not just all dumping in at the last minute, right? You can build the case then to make that change over the course of time, where it's like, if this is really trending in this direction, we should maybe think about this, versus that's the year before and it's like, oh, we had a really mild winter. We had our first snow wasn't until we didn't, it was 50 degrees on Christmas Day and it was a mild December, we didn't, right? Build it up over time. I think that makes the most sense. It's like building a business case, it's building a legal case, it's whatever you want to call it.
Right. And then I can have those discussions with, say, like the Wisconsin Waterfowl Association or some Conservation Congress or Wildlife Federation, say, hey, I've been hearing this Are you guys hearing the same thing? So they can also do some of the legwork as well with their, so it's not just, oh yeah, well, we haven't heard anything. So generally people must be happy with it. Cause if you don't hear anything, you assume status quo. And so if we don't hear anything, as people managing hunters, when it's quiet, you're usually doing a good job. If it starts getting loud, then people want change. And so if we want to hear from you, make sure you provide that feedback.
Yep. Perfect. Excellent. All right. Yeah, we're at about 16 minutes, which was the time limit that I allotted for this. I think we covered everything relevant. If you do have feedback for those listening, right, please do reach out now. Do not wait, right? I'm going to keep harping on that. Give your feedback here. We have a really unique setup in Wisconsin where we actually have a voice. So let your voice be heard. Just let your voice be heard. Right? You can have an opinion. Your opinion can count. It can make a difference. So let it be heard. And then, yeah, tomorrow is going to be July 1st.
Yep.
So we're literally just a couple months away from teal season. Like it's coming and it's coming quick. So it's time to get excited. Yeah, let's go. Start scouting. Taylor,